Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community, especially Attorney Robert Gownley, Jr., Tom Cawley, Frank Burke. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. Smurl?
Here. Dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, minutes of the Scranton Firefighters Pension Commission meeting held March 20th, 2024. 3B, minutes of the non-uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held March 20th, 2024. 3C, agenda for the non-uniform Municipal Pension Board meeting held April 17th, 2024. 3D, minutes of the Composite Pension Board meeting held March 20th, 2024. 3E, revenue collected for permits and licenses for the month of March of 2024 received April 18th, 2024. 3F, 2024 cumulative license permit report for revenue collected received April 18th, 2024. 3G, correspondence received from City Council President Gerald Smurl related to the Governor's Award for Local Government Excellence presented to the City of Scranton on April 10th, 2024.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have a couple I'll start with. So I'm asked to remind everybody the Black Sheep of West Scranton has a cornhole tournament. It's this Sunday, April 28th. There's prizes, food, music. There's 3 divisions. It's $50 a team, and it's at the Ukrainian Club on Railroad Avenue in West Scranton. And then second, Pine Brook is having their Family Arts Festival. That's also this Saturday. It's from noon until 4 at the John Adams Elementary School Playground. The United Neighborhood Centers in Northeastern Pine Brook invite you. And I have another one. So there's been a lot of cleanups going on in the city, which is fantastic. I got a message from a resident that she would like to have me announce this. If anyone would like to volunteer with the Cleanup and Beautify group happening in the city for nearly a year now, please call Deb at 570-914-8212. The group needs at least 5 to 10 more volunteers so current participants can take an occasional break from the action. Cleanups proceed in 2 hours per day intervals on selected days. Even if you wish to help only one time for 2 hours, it would be greatly appreciated. Every little bit counts. If you love the city and feel it deserves to be treated better and look better, call Deb and get more details on how you can help. So let's keep the effort going. Scranton, it does make a difference, and the number again is for Deb is 570-914-8212. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. McAndrew. Anyone else?
I'd just like to thank everyone that was able to get out over the weekend and clean up. I know there were groups up at Naog Park, there were groups up at Connell Park, and a number of other parks throughout the city. A lot of people put a lot of time and effort into helping to keep our city clean. So I just want to thank everybody that was able to make it and put in some time and effort to help make our city a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King.
I have a few announcements to add. First, I'll start off with saying happy Passover to those who celebrate, and I was honored to be able to attend the governor's Seder that he had in Harrisburg on Monday evening. It was a really beautiful evening, and so I just wanted to mention that. There's a fundraiser coming up Friday night. It's at 6 p.m. at Voodoo Brewing, and it is to benefit the NEPA Youth Shelter. And our very own Andrew Cotillo from our legal department will be playing the guitar there, and he's going to be doing Bruce Springsteen covers. So if you're into that, or if you like voodoo, or if you just want to support the NEPA Youth Homeless Shelter, please go out and attend. Speaking of which, I was able to have a great conversation with Maureen Gray, who is the executive director for the NEPA Youth Homeless Shelter, and visit some of the areas that they a property that they had purchased, and get to know more about what they've been doing recently. I also attended the talk that they had at the University of Scranton last Thursday night regarding the homeless population in Northeast Pennsylvania, and that was great, and learned quite a bit from that presentation too, and also plan on going to the UNC and the Catherine McCauley Center to discuss more with them, to see, what our local organizations are working on, what services they offer and provide that are helping the homeless. And so I'm, taking it upon myself to do that, and to, tour these centers and have those discussions with a lot of the people who are already doing the work. And then maybe that'll help in seeing what gaps there are, or where we need to improve. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild.
I have one announcement. It is that the Electric City Steel Drum Project, which is a group that teaches children and anyone that would like to learn the steel drums, as it is an instrument that's easy to learn with notes marked. They teach sight reading and how to play as a group. They're going to be having their annual night at the races. It will be Saturday the 27th. It's at St. Stanislaus Youth Center in South Scranton at 530 East Elm Street. The doors open at 6, and the race posts at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Fourth order.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
First, Joan Hodowanis.
Joan Hodowanis, Scranton. Even though I'm not a current property owner, I've been paying property taxes for the last 25 years and been helping out a family member. And so I expect to get bang for my buck with those tax dollars. And going back to the issue of the union contracts, the firefighters' contract was arbitrated and signed 385 days ago, the police 270 days ago, and apparently there are still no contracts on the website. So one of the things I did, being a retiree with nothing to keep me occupied, I went back, I pulled the contract for Mr. Ufberg's firm. It was approved by the City Council back in February of 2020. And then I went through all the controller reports to see, what payments had been made to his firm. And first payment was made in May of 2020, and I got them all through March 2024. And now there are many services, labor negotiations is one, but any litigation is another, and there are other things that a labor council does. The total amount of money paid through the controller's office and approved is $1.3 million. Now, I don't know how much of that is directly due to the police and union contracts. He also did, I believe, the clerical contract in DPW. But be that as it may, my next project will be to do a right to know and get with John Murray and see if I can get copies of the invoices ever since the arbitrator signed off on these negotiations. You see, in the military, when a decision is made, you stand there, you salute, and you go, yes, sir, 3 bags full. This is not a typing drill. There is something going on. I'm not entirely convinced anymore that this is Mr. Ufberg dragging his feet. When you consider some of the talent that worked with his firm, people like the late, great Jack Nogie and Judge Mary Walsh Dempsey. But in the contract, there is an interesting sentence. Scranton agrees to pay the contractor for furnishing the above services if said services are provided in full compliance with the terms and conditions of this contract to the satisfaction and approval of the business administrator. So maybe the business administrator can tell us what is going on, but this is not satisfactory. And then another thing I did over the last couple weeks was I took a look at all those pedestrian traffic light signals. I remember when they were put in about 20 or so years ago, we were told they were going to greatly enhance pedestrian safety, and I don't believe that's quite true. Many people have died since then. So what I did was I looked at all of them, and I went from Lackawanna Avenue to Vine and Mifflin to Jefferson, and I found 198 signals, push-button signals, and they're supposedly tied into the traffic lights. And when you push the button, a red light should come on, which is telling you that the system has been activated. And then you probably will hear the word wait if the sound system is working, because you have to wait until the traffic light signals to one full cycle before the screen's going to light up across the street, and you'll see a little white man, and then you'll see a countdown in terms of seconds, anywhere between 11 seconds and 33 seconds. This is what I found. The red light coming on, 21% of them didn't work. In terms of the sound, hearing the word wait, 58% of them did not work. And for a screen showing the countdown of seconds, 14% did not work. And each button is supposed to have a sign telling you how it operates. 46% had either a faded sign that was unreadable or no sign at all. The point is that we are not maintaining the infrastructure we have. If we're going to start this streetscape project with all these improvements, administration's got to buy into long-term maintenance in both terms of budget, personnel, or equipment, or we're just going to be wasting money. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you, Joan, for all your hard work and the data you provided with me a copy of. I'll make sure administration gets it.
Les Spindler?
Good evening, Council. Les Spindler, city resident, homeowner. Well, I'm happy to report that after over a month of me coming here and talking about it, the garbage off the Providence Road exit of the expressway is finally cleaned up. So, hallelujah. I guess it was just done today, because I went by yesterday and it was still there. So I was told it was done today, so finally. I'm tired of talking about it. Okay, next thing. My wife and I have lived at our rental property for 35 years and never had a problem about our city taxes until 2 years or whatever it was passed. The last 2 years, we've been getting threatening and harassing letters from Berkheimer. And this is because the legislation was passed by you, Councilman King, you, Councilman Smurl, and you, Councilwoman Rothchild, causing me grief for the last 2 years. Last year I got a letter saying something, I'm not paying taxes on my business. I showed my wife, I said, these idiots think we have a business. Never had a business in my life. But because you people passed that legislation, a rental property, they said it's considered a business. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. A business is someplace you go into and buy something. I'm not selling stuff from my house. My daughter lives next door. This year, I get a letter, last week it came, threatening me if I don't pay my city taxes, they're going to take me to court within 30 days. So I called Monday. I said, my daughter lives there. I haven't collected rent from her since COVID started when she lost her job. I thank God she's working again. But so they said, oh, just the letter we sent you, right on there that you're not collecting rent, and send your Schedule E from your taxes. So I didn't want to mess around with that, so I took it to my lawyer, and not my lawyer, my accountant, and they said they'd take care of it. But this is ridiculous. Why did you even have to pass something like that legislation? It's stupid. We shouldn't have to pay taxes if we have a rental property with a family member living there. And that's what the woman told me. She said, send all that in, and we'll take your rental property off the list as a rental property. So, but I have to put up with this aggravation because of you three that voted for that. And I know I won't forget it. I hope nobody else forgets it when it comes election time again. So thank you for your time. Thanks for your harassment.
Ron Ellman?
Hello, Council. See this shirt? I wear it because I love this city. That's the truth. I've said it up here several times. Sunday, I lost my antique cell phone somewhere. And Rosie phoned Garrity's, and a gentleman had turned it in, and I thank him. It's people like this that make this city that I just appreciate things so much, and it is so sad for me to see the hate in from racist, anti-Semitic, anti-Israeli, anti-Jewish letters in the paper, and support like those 80 people standing on the street for Hamas. And Saadati and Kelly, it's shameful. It's a shame that there's people like that in the city. I just don't understand how they can build up such hate for everything. Well, when Mr. Biden was here last week, I recognize him as my president. I didn't go see him or nothing. I thought Mayor Page was going to kiss his feet before he left here. At least I don't know, but if he did behind us. Anyway, when he left here, I read he went to Pittsburgh to talk to a union steelworker meeting. I don't know if any of you know about all the streets being torn up for the water pipes. They store all that stuff at the end of Troop Street at the railroad tracks. There's a mountain of big pipes and all kinds of fittings. You know where they're made? Alabama and China. There's stickers on them. Now, how can they ship stuff from China to us in Scranton cheaper than Pittsburgh? And these people, these utilities ought to be using Pittsburgh steel, not Alabama steel and China steel. It's a shame for somebody in charge there couldn't be much difference in the bidding prices for that when you ship something thousands of miles. And my neighborhood's full of these little electric scooters and bikes, and they don't belong in the street, they don't belong on the sidewalk, they don't have lights on them, and they think they own the heritage trail. So I quit walking down it. You know, I was fearful someone would hit my dog, but it's a coming problem. Something needs to be done. And lastly, behind the new restaurant on the 2800 block North Main there's a road along the river. Somebody has dumped a ton of garbage and junk, and I'm talking about not a little pile, I'm talking about a big, huge load. And it seems to me, if the code enforcement lady would quit worrying about my window on my porch and go over there and take some pictures and get maybe Mr. Lockwood or someone to put them in the paper, they could find out who did this, because there's a great big huge plastic water tank that someone got to recognize. It had to come from somewhere around here. And I'll tell you what, I'll give $100 out of my pocket towards cleaning it up for the arrest and the conviction of the jerk that did this. Thank you.
Ron, what's the address? Where's it at? Ron?
Was it 2800 North Main Avenue, you said?
Well,
What was the address?
you know where the DuPont is?
Yes.
Almost behind there, a couple, like just a couple houses over is a new restaurant. Big red building.
I think I know which one.
They have a driveway that comes out and goes around. If you're in the driveway of the restaurant, you can see the pile of junk.
Okay.
And I've been back there this morning with my dog. It's a lot of stuff.
It's
but
dumped
this
on the-
big water tank is huge.
Okay, thank you.
And
Mr.
it
Voldenberg?
has to be recognizable.
Okay.
It's dumped on the
Do you have
riverbank,
the address?
between the dirt road and the river.
I've got the address. I'm familiar with it.
All
Well,
right.
this is
The
city
address.
property. That's the road the fishermen use when they, park on and go to the river. Yeah.
Thank you.
The
We'll get
house,
to it.
real quick, the house on the corner of Alpha and Main, the boy had a little motorbike against the house. You couldn't see it. Last Sunday, someone stole his motorbike, and they threw out 3 bags of garbage there. It's like, again, insult to injury, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Ellman. Lee Morgan?
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. I would like to keep people in the pipeline about, the things that are going on in regards to licensing and inspections in the city. And since Mr. Smurl said and the Council said that they're only a legislative body, I think it's important for the residents to understand that District Justice Farrell demanded a hearing with me for licensing and inspections. That's after the one with the District Justice in Dixon City and after the District Justice Corbett quit the case. So I proceeded to give her my subpoena list. And all of a sudden, the hearing that was scheduled for May 22nd was canceled. And now we're going to wheel something back to see whether she even wants to hear this case, because in my opinion, she's trying to shield the city and the people on my subpoena list. So probably this week coming up, I'm going to have to go sit down with the president judge and have a discussion, because the corruption here is just amazing. And the council itself knows of this corruption and will do absolutely nothing about it. And the 5 council members there created the quality of life ordinance. And I think it's in contradiction to constitutional rights and law. You've got your attorney right there. But the amazing thing is, the city hires an outside legal firm to go to the hearing in Dixon City. It's amazing. But I think that in the end, I think the District Justice understands that she has to shield the city, and she has to shield the licensing and inspections department and the people on my subpoena list. But she made one very, very flawed error. I know what I'm doing, and I know where I'm going. And when this council passed an ordinance and allowed the licensing and inspections departments to extinguish people's rights and not offer any protections to the residents from licensing and inspections, not even the mayor cares about the residents, because the residents and the property owners have rights. And they're not the people that is driving this city into the ground. It's the mayor and it's the council. All your laws are killing this city and all your incompetence. And for the governor to come forward and telling you that you're doing a great job, that was a lie. And everybody should understand that. And the district justice, whatever she does, we're just twisting and turning. You know, I remember the time I went to court in Commonwealth Court and the judge looked at me and almost threw me out of the courtroom. But after the hearing was over, I prevailed. And in every case that I've ever been in, I've won. And we're going to see what happens as this case goes forward. Because really what I think needs to happen is everybody that has sovereign immunity needs to have it extinguished, have it pierced. And every person who touched an ink pen needs to be held liable financially. That's what I think, and that's my aim. And I think the district justice knows that. Now, she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't want to go forward anymore. Now she wants to go backwards. But nobody's going backwards. Thank you.
That's all for the sign-in sheet. Anyone else wish to address council?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson, resident. Taxes paid. Okay. With these people that are throwing these little cleanup committees, try to bestow a little praise on them or a little plaque or something. And I think you'll get a little better goodwill out of them. And okay, once again, the landfill's in the paper. I don't know what to say about the extension, but the leachate has to be dealt with and not with reverse osmosis. We have to trust them to put out properly filtered material, and if it isn't, the pollution flows down here and the money flows up there. Reverse osmosis, that's what that means. Couldn't find it in the dictionary, but I'm sure. And I have an issue here with my utility bills. We just were over the gas bill. I should have brought my glasses up, but my delivery costs exceed my usage by quite a bit. And I'm wondering, I hope those delivery costs reduce this summer, because my summer bill is usually 50 or 60 bucks at most. And this here, I'll have to stay after and show you. If that is, I'll have a $150, $170 bill for the summer. That's unacceptable, totally unacceptable. And as far as issues, I am concerned about some of the rhetoric people use up here. I mean, I talked to the mayor over at that meeting over, and you know, you don't have to bash somebody to talk to them and disagree with them. In fact, if you disagree with them politely, they might feel bad and start to agree with you, as opposed to accusing them of everything from the current date to Watergate, or they helped Ted Cruz's father shoot Kennedy. You know, it's like, it's a little over the top, but we do need a kinder and gentler property inspections, and I think people should be given notice, and if they mitigate the problem, then, you know, in a couple of days. If you have somebody that wants to scoff at the law, then, you know, sometimes they are in the wrong. I have a friend who has so much junk on his property up in Scott Township, I can't walk across it. He's like a hoarder or something. And, you know, last week I mentioned about President Eisenhower, and he still is my favorite president. The only point with what I did say was that everybody that holds an office doesn't always get something perfectly right at all times. I mean, you know, Kennedy had to be warned about his associations by J. Edgar Hoover, his early associations, when he was in office. And LBJ, I mean, people just about beat him to death. And then we had Nixon and Watergate and on, you know. But the point being that 501c3s and 501c4s really shouldn't be as up in politics as what they are. They don't have any right because they aren't paying taxes. Here I have raising the alarm on pregnancy care. Now, these women are walking in different states, and there's 501c3s pushing this all the time everywhere, every state. But they have to be shipped out of state over miscarriages. They're going septic. They're destroying their internal organs.
Thank you, Mr.
And even
Dodson.
risking death.
Thank you.
So why should somebody have the right that doesn't even pay taxes to
Anyone
do
else?
this? Have a good night. I guess I'm not as popular as what I used to be. Thank you.
Tom Coyne, Manuka. Well, I was listening to last, it came across an interesting thought came across my mind as I was listening to it. With all the paperwork he has to pull, the tax documents and everything he has to put forward, it seems that somehow we got this reversed, that the citizens who we're serving are now, at this point, have to pull all the documents to prove that they are innocent. It seems that we have turned the rental and the documentation and the approval department into that our citizens are guilty until proven innocent. They are guilty of avoiding the taxes and rentals until they actually come in with all the proof and everything else. It's sad that you get persecuted for doing the right thing and legal thing, and you have to prove that you're innocent because there's a preponderance in the city that you are actually guilty. Moving on, the homeless committee. I asked 3 weeks now, I believe this is the 4th. Who is on it? How long has it existed? And are there minute meetings? Mr. Smurl said he was going to get me those answers. Mr. Smurl, what are the answers?
I'm working on it.
It takes a month to find out who's on a committee? You don't have names?
No, I don't.
Has the mayor not responded to you?
I didn't ask the mayor.
Did you ask anyone?
Yes,
Who did you inquire with?
with the administration.
And the administration is not forthcoming in giving you the information that you want. You're saying that the administration is actively stonewalling you.
I didn't say that. You said that.
That's correct, I did, because it's been a month for a simple question. Either they're not willing to give you the answer as president of city council, or they are. Obviously, if it's a month, you should have this information, just as Mr. Schuster shouldn't have to put in a right to know for information, and the only reason why he has to put in a right to know is because it puts this administration on the footing legally where it has to respond, rather than pushing it down and not responding to everyone else. When are you going to get that answer? Are you going to have a meeting on it?
I may.
You may. Okay. Last week you had mentioned with the license and inspections that the investigation of Mr. Orlowski was complete and whatever action to be taken was completed. Was concluded. Is that correct?
No, I did not say that. Attorney Gilbride notified everyone of that.
Okay, is it correct then that the investigation was complete and it is concluded at this point, even though it's a personnel matter, we're not going to discuss it, is that now complete?
Attorney Gilbride, have they completed every aspect of the investigation?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, then I can actually ask for the final determination of that, and I understand that I will have to do a right to know for that. But final determinations of these investigations are legally accessible under the right to know law, and I will follow through with that, since it seems that we're not allowed to know how our employees who have been caught are actually punished, treated, or if there's anything done to them. It seems that there is a gigantic wall between clarity and responsibility between the public and the governmental body. The gentleman who was here a few weeks ago from the NAACP made statements that were quite in error, and I'd like to address some of those. First of all, he said when a police officer stops you, you should just hand over your ID, because if you don't, it makes you look suspicious. Suspicion is not a crime. Pennsylvania is not a stop and ID state. The police are not allowed to randomly stop people on fishing expeditions and ask them for ID. Unless there's a reason to hand them the ID, no one should just be handing over ID to the police department. I don't care if it's the mayor. It's not the law. If a police officer stops you and has a lawful investigation, you can cooperate or you can stand silent on it. You don't have to, and you can ask, am I free to go? And that's what you should do, because the longer you stay involved in it, the longer you risk your freedom. It's not a stop and ID state, so handing over your ID is just the same as saying, go ahead and search my house to your free will because I have nothing to hide. It's dumb to do. You stand on your fifth and you're done. I'll close it and I'll talk about police dogs next week. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Virgil Argenta, Scranton resident. City of Scranton doesn't have a curfew law. We're all aware juvenile crime is on the rise. If we had a legitimate crime stats that could help decipher the age groups and severity of the crimes, excuse me, but we don't. So we use the issues we know about. They're alarming. Crime and violence are a profoundly significant issue. It's real and it's here. School will be out for summer in less than 6 weeks. Are we prepared? We can name a juvenile as a minor under the age of 18. Without a curfew law in place, a police officer cannot just stop a juvenile without infringing on the minor's rights, unless a crime is occurring. It may be time for the City Council to look at creating a curfew ordinance for juvenile and minors. A school-hour curfew may also be something you may want to investigate. This may prevent teens from loitering while skipping school. This law may also discourage truancy. If an unauthorized adult is with a juvenile, the adult may also face charges for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. We understand not all minors being out after curfew are doing something wrong. The law, when written, can provide exceptions using common sense. If the minor becomes a habitual offender, you may want to put a clause where the parent or guardian will also face criminal charges. Sitting back and doing nothing is an excuse. We deserve law and order in this city, and whatever this administration is doing, it's definitely not working. We'll move on to the Weston Field Skate Park plan. Was there any courtesy given to the neighbors about this proposed new addition? Was any input asked from the neighbors who live in that area and deal with the crime and violence on a daily basis? That's something the mayor and the Parks and Recreation director wouldn't know anything about. They don't live in the city. Is there a security plan in place? Did anyone from administration check to see if the skate park violates anything in the trust or the estate of Mr. Weston? As for changing the aesthetics and the use of Weston Field Park? Or is this another shoot from the hip, bright idea from the mayor because other cities are doing it? What about the already skate park that's rotting away in West Scranton? If we have so much money, wouldn't it be smart to prioritize our needs like we would do in our own home? Maybe use that funding for public safety and law and order, so we didn't always have to rely on the Pennsylvania State Police, who we are incredibly grateful to have their continued support. Lately, we feel like we're a city under siege. Prioritize how we spend our money. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Rick Little from Scranton. It's a critical time right now. I couldn't believe it trying to vote yesterday. Just where do I vote? What do I need to vote? And then I go in there and because I told the county I want to be a judge. I want to, and I've been a judge before, a poll watcher and stuff. So I go in there and I vote, and everybody there is from. Everybody working there is from the Catholic Services Organization, which blew my mind. It's always been that way when I lived at Scranton Housing Authority. And it's just far too easy for them to criminalize somebody and get rid of them because they got the courts in their pocket. I listening to Lee Morgan, yeah, that's the way it is in that court, in Judge Farrell's court. Because I tried to, I said, I want a stenographer there. And it's just, no, even when you do a counterclaim, it's other matter and it gets thrown into the thing. And the second time they did it, I had my own docket number. And I'm pursuing it. County wouldn't give me discovery. So I don't know who even works at Scranton Housing Authority, which ties my hands. I couldn't even send a subpoena. You need an address. And Judge, they always hit me right before Thanksgiving or Christmas. And nothing's open, especially in the county. It's almost like a joke at the federal courthouse. I mean, it's Juneteenth. But when you're fighting for your life, you need that discovery. You need these agencies to be open. And there's nothing I could do. And I figured out what to do. Because the judge, even before I was there, every time you walk in, next week is trial. So I don't even know what a trial is. And then we get there next week, and because
There's just no trial procedure. There's no due process. And so I get evicted, and it's an appeal of an appeal. And so I'm homeless. I lose 90% of my stuff. And the way it works is these judges know that they make a ruling, and it's just a matter of days before the county sheriff comes and, locks you out. But what we have here in this area is a vast array of voting farms. And there's no housing. The namesake of it is Scranton Housing Authority. You would think that people from Scranton, who in the past started this, the Marchat Hotel was a luxury hotel, and you start looking on the internet, oh yeah, that was raised, they say. No, it's not raised, it's still there at 414 Adams Avenue. And talking about code enforcement, I'm living in the building, they're doing construction for 2 years. In my lease, it says I have the amenities of the city and county. I come over to code enforcement and I go, this is hell. And during that hell, they got rid of 20 of 22 people on my floor. I refused to move because I couldn't move. It's punishment to make people move, especially when they're old, disabled, and I was living there for 14 years, but there's no due process. And the city has to start looking at the process. Number one, the housing list at Scranton Housing, there's no housing. The list is closed for 3 years. Someone has to look into that because that's a fallacy that I could have gotten in discovery, but they wouldn't allow me in the courts.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You knew there was somebody else. Mike Mancini, proud resident, City of Scranton. So, City Council, tonight, what do you want to talk about? I'll tell you what I want to talk about. Safety. 2 words that are predominant with safety are honor and justice. Those were actually the 2 canines that were named by Mary Wilding. 2 cane corsos. With the suggestion of Councilman Schuster, took the liberty to get in contact with Chief Carroll. Did that today. I had a wonderful conversation with him. Been good friends a long time. Half hour. First thing I want to address is that the Scranton Police Department is pro-crime watch. Join your neighborhood crime watch. If you have a tip, Scranton.gov. You can do it anonymously. Every little tip helps. Like I said last week, like I've said over the past month, like I've said for the past several months, they go out to so many calls that we don't even know about. These canines will make a difference. Chief Carroll is in the opinion that we do need help, that we need the city's help, that we need people to step up. He's embraced the idea of these canines. Cane Corso is a huge, massive dog. They're not used much in the way of police activity, police apprehension, police safety. Going back to 2007 was the start of, I believe, first Cane Corso. They were breeded as an Italian dog. They were part of the Roman wars, decades, centuries ago. They're used quite a bit in Italy as far as canine police departments. They use them all over Europe. It's a great thing. So I'm going to be meeting with Chief Carroll, along with Shadow Romano, the breeder, Ed Adams, the trainer, late next week. I'm going to sit down. He's going to take a look at one of the canines, I'm sorry, one of the cane corsos that Shadow's going to bring along with him. You know, I also asked the chief about, what does the mayor think? You know, and that's a question I wanted to ask. To my surprise, you know, and thankfully, you know, the one thing that you want to be on the same page with is safety. Paige Cognetti is definitely on board with canines. And I want to thank her tonight for that, because safety is the most important thing that we need here in the city. With this railway system coming in the not-so-distant future, it's very important to us that we help our police department, that we remain safe, and that we become proactive. You know, a lot of this stuff that we see down south Luzerne County, southern Luzerne County, into Monroe County, you know, I don't want to see that here. The only colors I see here, blue and red, aren't Crips and Bloods. They're West and Scranton High. Our kids are our future. Decisions that we make now affect us into the future. One of the biggest things is safety. You know, I hear about these calls, and they're very alarming. When you hear about a preteen overdosing in West Scranton, it becomes very alarming. Now, after the passing of my son, I feel very, very bad for those parents. I know the feeling. You know, these canines will make a difference. They hit on guns, they hit on drugs. We have, I believe, 127 known gang members in our Scranton School District system. You know, we need to address that because kids are making poor choices. You know, let's make the choices for them. Let's make our community safer. Let's join our crime watch programs. Let's make a difference. These gangs are not going to run our streets. We own these streets. We have a bigger gang than them. And if they want to come into our town, I assure you the Scranton Department will be ready for you, and they will be ready to pull you. God bless our Scranton Police Department. God bless our first responders. Good evening, City Council.
Anyone else?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. King, do you have any motions or comments?
I would like to check into the curfew issue, if we could. Maybe take a look at some other surrounding cities and some other legislation that we might want to consider for our city. If you could take a look at that, Attorney Gilbride, we appreciate that. And I think that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I'll go through some of the requests I put out last week. I was happy to see, I watched the Volpe report on Sunday, and in the same vein of safety and helping street crime, I'd like to thank Senator Marty Flynn. He gave $100,000 in funding to help combat street and gang violence, and also thanking the Lackawanna County DA's office, who's been a big part of what the safety issues I would say the safety response that's going on in the city right now, as well as the state police and the Scranton Police Department. Still waiting on the results of that study that the city did for about $80,000. Waiting patiently on what we're going to find with that study. But I'm glad to see that these people are putting money for safety and addressing the issues that are current right now. Looking at some of the requests I had last week, I did ask a question about some of the ARPA budget transfers. There was an April 7th memo to council that transition some money from some of the ARPA accounts into other accounts. So I asked if the programs are successful and the reasons why we were transferring that money from one account to another, whether it would be that these business startups, things like that, were more successful than other programs. But the answer I got was ARPA funds were transferred to meet funding obligations due to program participation. The city's in the process of closing and completing many of the subrecipient programs and moving them to a monitoring phase in advance of the December 24th obligation deadline. So we have that. I asked about a number of unfilled positions. We are putting a position in with the IT department that's going to benefit the Scranton Police Department with the computer systems and the vehicles and other IT issues in the police department. It was about $51,000 position. As I've said in the past, I've never in favor of opening a budget mid-year. I thought we were going to be discussing it at budget time this year coming up, but I thought we could, some of the money that was in positions that haven't been funded this year, that we have open positions, maybe transferring that money from those open positions. But we have 9 positions that are open currently in the city. There's 2 blight positions that are part of an ongoing collective bargaining negotiation, and they'll be posted when that resolves. We have the OECD director. We have the DPW director. We have, like I said, 2 blight positions, 1 janitor, 1 DPW floater, 1 auto technician, 1 housing inspector, part-time maintenance person, that OEC director, and the DPW director. So I think with those positions, we would have the funding to cover that $51,000. I also asked for a list of a comparison list of the pave cut receivables from 21 to 24. Some of the recent pave cuts I've seen, I kind of questioned whether they're being inspected. The answer I got back from the city through the council end was that they've received the question and they're going to continue to work on the response. I also put a right to know in to see which response I would receive first. I announced last week that I also got the response that some of you in the audience have gotten or received, that due to staffing shortages, they were unable to process my claim. Where we transferred the money for that $51,000 position in IT was from the Operation TSF Worker CO expenditure. When I got the clarification on that, it is from the Workers' Compensation Fund line item in our budget. I asked about an update on the Kaiser Valley grant process. How many grants have been awarded? This was a $5,000 per household grant. How many are pending and how many have been denied? So the answer was the Kaiser Valley grant process has assumed that I was referring to the update on the ARPA Individual Disaster Recovery Program, which I was, for residents of the Kaiser Valley and North Scranton. 72% of the grants have been awarded as per the 22nd of April. 72 grants were awarded to residents totaling approximately $295,000. 28 awards are still under review and pending the submission of additional documents from those residents, and 5 applications were denied. Of those 5 denials, 1 was from a home resident whose home was not impacted by the flood and was seeking funding for future flood mitigation. 1 was a business owner, and the recovery program was not intended for businesses. 1 application was from a resident whose vehicle was affected by the flood, not to their home, and 2 applicants were residents outside of the city of Scranton. Ms. Hodawanitz beat me to the information this week. She reported that our labor billing has exceeded $1.2 million. I was going to bring that up, but she did it first. And that was the answer we actually got. So the actual action that you did was the answer we got. Council is in receipt of the Labor Council bills that are submitted to the city through the Controller's report, and that information is sent to Council monthly, so we could do our own research on that. Gates. I'm going to steal some of Mr. McAndrew and Mr. King's thunder, because I know at least 3 of us asked about open parks and if we're enforcing after dusk. Some of the answers I got were, I mean, right off the top, to answer whether The Parks and Rec Department and SPD is confirming that Weston Field is being locked or parks are controlled after dusk, was that council members McAndrew and Schuster met with Chief Carroll on Thursday, April 11th to discuss this topic. We did have a discussion with some of the neighborhood crime watch things that we'd like to get off the ground. We did mention to the chief about gates being opened, but I think council was looking for a response as to will there be city action on the gates that are open. For several questions, that was the answer we got, that me and Mr. McAndrew had met with the chief and discussed this. It says that the main entrance to the facility's parking lot will not be locked. Gates will not be locked because they will restrict first responders from gaining access into the park in case there's an emergency. Saying Scranton Police Department patrols the area, and it's evidenced by the extremely quick response from that last incident. I will say it was a very quick response. I think a deeper dive needs to be taken into Weston Field. If you go there late at night, the basketball court lights are on, the gates are open. I think if there's different ways to have keys, there's different ways to gain access if emergency were to occur late at night, that first responders could get into the fields. But we should take a look as to whether lights will be on to make the courts playable at all hours of the morning. And what actions can be taken there. And I think we need to find out what actions can be taken rather than just gates will not be locked. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild, do you have any motions or comments?
I do. The first one I'll start with, I received a recent complaint, but we've had complaints about this in the past. I believe Councilman Smurl has also brought this up. Along South Washington Avenue, there are a number of tractor trailers that park, or trailers that have been left there, and vehicles that park there too. People who are exiting from the Wright Center are having an issue being able to have a line of sight and safely turn onto the road. And so I'd like to ask that SPD monitor that area some more and ticket those vehicles that are parked illegally.
I'll submit that, Dr. Rothchild.
Okay, thank you. And I think it's, might need to be a more frequent thing because, like I said, it's been an ongoing issue and people are not getting the point, and we want people to be able to safely use our roadways without being blocked by those vehicles. And next, I wanted to bring up with the water projects. I know that Councilman Smurl and King had met with Steve Osolinsky, I believe, from Pennsylvania American Water, and if it was last month or the month before, regarding the projects. I would also like to meet with him or receive a more detailed update of the water projects going on in the city, because there are some, and I want to see also an updated list, if we have one, of the projects that are being accomplished in the summer or spring, summer. I know there's a few that in particular that I'm interested in, but just felt like it'd be helpful to be able to meet and discuss with him. And then one of them is Prescott Avenue that they had torn up shortly before the winter time and then had to make some patches because of the terrible shape it was in. I haven't seen any work being done since then or anything being touched. I know on Myrtle Avenue, they've been working on the 1500 block, but there's still like 8 other blocks that they still need to be able to repair, and it's just really terrible. But there's many streets like that around the city that have been their projects that I want to address.
I'll get those specifics.
Okay, great, thank you. And one last thing, I received a response about the public health coordinator position that's been brought up a few times, so just wanted an update on where we stood with that, because last I'd heard they were looking for someone to replace that position and haven't been able to fill it yet. The most recent update was that they're assessing the job description and will post when an updated version is ready. So I'm not sure what they're planning on changing with the job description, but hopefully we'll get that back up soon. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. King, you had an additional comment?
Oh, just one. I had asked a question about, the speaker had indicated that the AC unit in the police K-9 vehicle was not working or wasn't operable, and how soon it would be corrected. The answer I got was the K-9 vehicle being utilized is fully operational. They indicated that they maintain a spare K-9 vehicle should one become unserviceable. K-9 officers will not operate a vehicle that would jeopardize the safety of their K-9s. So that was the answer I got on that. And, you know, I just to follow up on the locks again, I know that in schools that I worked at in the past, that there were lock boxes that the emergency responders all had access to, and they were able to, you know, so that when the building was locked and there's a fire or there's a burglary at 2 in the morning and they can't get a hold of a principal or a superintendent or whoever, the maintenance guy, the emergency responders had access to that lockbox. So just a thought.
Yeah, it's something that you see on a lot of buildings. It's like a metal plate on the outside of the building. Also, first responders have bolt cutters that could snip the locks off the gate if they need to.
Thank you. Mr. McAndrew, do you have any motions or comments?
Yeah, I got a couple. So, of course, I'm going to speak to these two questions. I posed one of them. Mr. King did as well. I'm thinking the same thing as you, Mr. King. So the answer that we get about, you know, securing the parks, especially Weston Field, is, well, Mr. McAndrew, or Councilman members McAndrew and Schuster met with Chief Carroll on April 11th and discussed this topic. No, we didn't discuss, we discussed a lot of things. We did not discuss this in detail. We didn't ask him how, when, and where is the park's going to be secured at dusk. He agreed that they should be. He agreed that dusk is the time to do it. The question was posed to the parks director. All right? So I have a little problem with this answer. And I definitely have a problem with the answer is, oh, you know, we got to lock the gates. Guess what? If the gates were locked, there'd be nobody in there. Right? If the gates are locked, there'd be nobody in there. Okay? But if they are, find their way in, and, you know, first responders got to get there, I agree with Mr. King. Mm-hmm. You know, you can have a fob issued, right? A bolt cutter is a fob, or even like a combination lock. I mean, it's 2024. There's multiple ways to get through that barrier as a first responder. So I disagree with this, obviously. Novembrino Park, the same thing. You know, I was told something else, but maybe they did hop the fence. I was told that the door was open, but I guess they're saying that it was broken into. But well, guess what? This stuff's occurring, so we need to kick it up a little bit, find better ways, multiple means of delivery to provide safety at these parks. Just saying, no, we can't do it because of first responders, I don't think it's a good enough answer for me. Secondly, so I've got a couple complaints from, there's owners of two properties. One is 1305 Prospect, it's the home, and then 523 Cedar Avenue is a business they own. The windows of both properties keep getting smashed out, at least 4 times since January. So this is crazy and terrible. The owners of these properties claim that they are not getting return calls after providing evidence via cameras, and they even know whom this is, who's completing, you know, who's doing these crimes or breaking the windows. But they were told by the mayor that it's on her list, and with the police chiefs. So, Mr. Voldenberg, could we check on that and get an update for these poor residents that are experiencing this horrific
I will, sir.
crime to their property? It's crazy. Also, so about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I'm not sure, the city required or looked for or posted, I think at the time it was just a tax appeal attorney, okay? So I know they posted it, I know they might have interviewed one person, and then all of a sudden, you know, we're gonna move in a different direction, we're not gonna hire anybody at this time. Then it was posted again, if my memory serves me right, a person was hired, okay? And then that person left and they just replaced it without posting it again. Now that person, my understanding is leaving or left. So now there's a new posting. So it's not a posting to hire
an attorney, it's now a posting to seek an RFQ for a tax appeal hearing officer and/or their firm, I guess. So I'm a little confused. A couple people reached out to me. I don't have answers for them as to, you know, what happened, how come the changes. I know they have the right to appoint attorneys and, they, you know, but just the process, I'm a process guy, so I don't understand this, how it went from, you know, an appointment, and now it's an RFQ, and then somewhere in the middle, there wasn't a posting. So, Mr. Voldenberg, just for clarification's sake, like I said, I don't have the answers for these folks that are asking me. Could you please get them for me and the folks that are asking?
I will, Mr. McAndrew.
Thanks, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. This is about the securing housing for the unsheltered people. The city has conducted a series of meetings in fall of 2022 to gather input from Lackawanna County Continuum and of Care, Scranton Housing Authority, and North Penn Legal Services, and others on local housing needs. Additionally, 3 advertised public meetings were held to gather comments, draft a plan for the city's allocation of a $2.4 million home ARP funds. This is not ARPA funds. This is in addition to that. So the city's final home ARP plan was submitted to and approved by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development in 2023. The plan includes funding additional housing and additional homeless shelters. The study did find there is a need for affordable housing in Scranton. And multiple local and nonprofit organizations are exploring to create new shelters, including emergency shelters and family shelters. The city's Unsheltered Task Force meets on a regular basis to discuss and encourage these efforts and plan for how the city may be able to assist with federal funding and other resources. There are multiple housing developments pending, various approvals and funding structures throughout the city. We are awaiting the results from a housing needs assessment through the Scranton Area Foundation, which will inform how the city-owned properties, some may be used for as a new life as housing. And that's the update we have for the housing situation. Mr. Voldenberg.
B, no business at this time. 6th order, 6A, no business at this time. 7th order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, filed to Council number 16, 2024, amending filed to Council number 98, 2023, an ordinance as amended entitled, appropriating funds for the expenses of the city government for the period commencing on the first day of January, 2024, to and including December 31st, 2024, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2024, so as to transfer an amount not to exceed $51,510 from the Bureau of Administration, Oper TSF Worker Compensation line item account as noted, to fund a position of employment, public safety specialist, that was not identified in the 2004 operating budget.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, resolution number 29, 2024, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to extend by an additional year of the city's contract with Benovate, Inc., doing business as Neighborly Software for Scranton office economic community development housing, community, and economic development software.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, Resolution Number 30, 2024, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the City of Scranton to execute and enter into an independent contractor agreement extension with Matthew Dominis to provide finance director services to the City of Scranton.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second?
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, Resolution Number 31, 2024, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with the Pennsylvania Economy League, Central PA LLC, to perform financial forecasting services.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second?
On the question?
On the question, a lot of these things that we're passing now are items that are going to come out of professional services. And one thing I failed to mention when we were in fifth order when it came to that labor billing is that this year it was up $150,000 since the previous year. In 2023, it was $600,000 for the HR professional services, which that labor council would come out of. And this year, without any of the contracts that we settled last year, there was an additional $150,000 added to that line item. So a lot of these services will be coming out of those professional services for, the finance department, for legal department, just to keep that in mind.
Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, Resolution Number 32, 2024, amending Resolution Number 305, 2023, a resolution entitled, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the City of Scranton to execute and enter into an agreement for services with All Rose LLC for appraisal services for the Meadowbrook Flood Project Easement Acquisition Project, to include and authorize the City of Scranton to amend the contract to include title-related services.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
8th Order, 8A, filed to Council Number 14, 2024.
This ordinance converts a certain portion of Deacon Street from a one-way to a two-way street. Council is awaiting a recommendation of additional stop signs for this. I've been told this hopefully will be able to move on by next week. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.